by my bedside. Come along. So where did it go today? Here it is. All right, so as chair of the select board, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of COVID-19 pandemic and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12 pursuant to executive order 2020-04, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. Please note that there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. However, in accordance with the emergency order, I am confirming that we are providing the public access to the meeting by telephone with additional access possibilities by video or other electronics means. We are using Zoom and the YouTube live stream for this electronic meeting. All members of the board have the ability to communicate contemporaneously during this meeting through this platform, and the public has access to contemporaneously listen and, if necessary, participate in this meeting through dialing the following number, 603-236-4730, or by clicking on the website address. We are also providing public notice of the necessary information for accessing this meeting. I'm doing this without my glasses. We previously gave notice to the public of the necessary information for accessing the meeting, including how to access the meeting using Zoom or telephonically. Instructions have also been provided on the website of the town at www.watervillevalley.org. And we do provide a mechanism for the public to alert us in the event that if there are any problems that to access. If anybody has a problem, please call 603-236-4730 or email townofwv@watervillevalley.org. And we will adjourn the meeting if the public is unable to access this meeting. Please note that all votes that are taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. And let's start the meeting by taking roll call attendance. When each member states their presence, please also state whether there is anyone in the room with you during this meeting, which is required under the right to know law. Margaret Turner, just me and my dogs.
Rich Rita, Vice Chair, nobody but me. Mike Aronson alone.
Okay. Mark, let's move to our COVID-19 update first.
Sure. Go ahead, Dean.
So there really isn't too much of a change in our response here in town. Everything's been pretty copacetic as far as our equipment and any of our readiness to respond. That hasn't changed. Everyone is well, and you know, we're following all the orders. We're participating in all the weekly, almost daily online meetings with the state and with the other public health partners, and just keeping up with any changes that may be coming down, and just getting ourselves familiarized with the stay-at-home order 2.0 and just being ready for, as some things open, are we here making sure that we have the answers to some of the questions for some of the businesses and that sort of thing. I know the state has expanded testing throughout the state with addition of a number of locations, and they've relaxed some of the restrictions for being able to get a test. And if you can go to the state website, nh.gov, and there should be a link there for the procedures. It still is some of the test locations still require a registration and recommendation from your primary care doctor. And some of the other private, like, the Clear Choice MD type places are moving away from the recommendations from a doctor. It can be just a drive up if you want to test. They are charging for these. If you have insurance or anything, they'll charge your insurance.
The insurance, if your insurance won't cover it, the governor has said that the state will pay. So they will charge your insurance if you have it. If you do not have insurance, you can still get the test.
Yep. As of right now, that's all I have. If you have questions, during this for public safety for us, you're welcome to text the question in. That's 603-254-6708. And I'll get them there and I'll do my best to answer any questions. There is some, but it's not part of the COVID-19.
Yeah, we'll get to the questions we've received here. They're specific to other items on the agenda. As far as town administration is concerned and the other departments in town, public works staff is here in full force Monday through Friday. Town office staff is also here at town hall Monday through Friday, 8 to 4. No walk-in service at any of the town buildings. However, you can call, make an appointment, and come on over. We will take care of whatever business you have curbside, so we can process paperwork and bring it out to you. The post office is still open half days in the morning, and that's 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday. So pretty much no change from last week. Any questions about anything COVID related?
I sent an email question in.
You did?
That's correct.
Oh, okay.
Margaret, correct me if I'm wrong. You asked, there was a question about people who have tested negative. If they have tested negative on a COVID-19 test, are they presumptive positive? No, but for those folks that want to test and who are symptomatic, those people would be considered presumptive positive, if you follow me. So if you're symptomatic, most healthcare facilities, or if you call your primary care, are going to presume that you're positive if you're symptomatic. If you have with no symptoms, then you're not presumptive positive.
And what about if you have a negative test, and if you find out you have a negative test while you're waiting, are you presumptive positive?
Nothing.
Let me explain.
Yeah.
Go get a test. You're waiting for the results of the test. Are you considered presumptive positive at that time?
With symptoms only. If you have symptoms. Yep.
And if the test then comes negative, are you still considered presumed positive?
No, you're not.
Because the individual that brought this up in another meeting, it sounded like he got conflicting advice.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, and the one thing you need to understand is the test is only good for that point in time. There's no considerations for any exposures you may have after that point in time. So really, if there's two different tests at two different times, one's positive and one negative, doesn't necessarily mean that the other test was wrong.
All right.
Any-
Do we have any other COVID-19 business to go over, Mark?
Nothing right now, no.
Okay. If we have anything come in, we'll answer questions. Right?
Okay,
Mhm.
sure.
Okay. So let's move on to the next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. First from the April 22nd, 2020 meeting.
Yeah, I'm fine with them. I have 3 or 4 changes. I'll do what I've been doing in the past. Just next email then with you. Sharon.
With grammatical changes, Rich?
Yeah, nothing substantive.
Mike? Any changes? You're on
You're
mute,
muted.
Mike.
Some people prefer that. I had just the minor grammatical, but I had a question about how something reads. Line 144 and 145. Margaret recommended that the definition of the space in the first paragraph of the agreement where their exclusive areas are described. What did you recommend?
I recommended, when we were defining for, the school board, exactly the area the recreation is, that be put in the first paragraph, which is where all the other definitions are. Because then you can just refer after it as the rec.
Okay. So it should be the definition of the space should be put in the first paragraph.
Right.
All right, that makes sense to me. Thanks.
Can
And
I?
Mark, are we gonna have that ready?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask you if I sent that out because I made the changes and I wasn't, as I was listening to Mike, I was trying to remember if I had emailed that to you. Have you not
No,
seen
I
it?
haven't received it.
Okay,
I was planning to attend the school board meeting next Thursday.
yes, I will get that to you.
And you all have it?
Yes.
Thank you. All righty, can I have a motion to accept the April 22nd, 2020 meeting minutes as amended?
I'll make that motion. I'll second that motion. This is Rick.
So that was Mike that made the motion and Rich seconded. All in favor? Margaret says aye.
Rich says aye. Mike says aye.
Can I just ask one thing, Margaret, before we get off it, because I don't want to forget. I will add the description of the rec area to the first paragraph as you requested. When I send it to you, if there are no other edits, Mike Fergal had requested that we send it to the school board earlier so I'll be okay to send it.
Correct.
As long as I've captured that, correct?
Right, and the
Okay.
whole idea was to give the more complete description of the rec area up front, and then later on, you can just refer to it as the rec area.
Yeah, okay, and I just want to make sure that I can get that to them without having another selectmen's meeting to go over it again. Unless there's just some big question and we can go from there. Okay,
That was the only thing that was left from,
All right.
from that. Okay, let's go on to the approval of the May 4th, 2020 minutes. Do we have any corrections that anybody wants to make to those?
I had one again.
Okay.
If we go to line 84 and 85 and 86. I don't think it truly conveys a thought. It says, discussion ensued regarding how to manage the use of sick time related to COVID and options offered, including offered pay bonus time or replenishing any sick time from use at the end of the emergency. It's what I think I was trying to say, which was a couple weeks ago, so is that we would add time to, it would be a time exchange. I don't know if it's phrased correctly in this.
Right. It only says what options we looked at. It doesn't say
You-
that we decided on using the sick time.
Right, but it doesn't convey the option I suggested probably, I don't think.
you decide, if I'm correct, Mike, you decided on the latter option.
Right,
You decided to replenish whatever was used at the end. And so that's what we're physically doing. We
I'll
are
reword that.
charging, Sharon will make that
okay,
change.
no, I understand what we decided and all that, I just don't think that.
Yeah.
It was a bit confusing for me to read it.
We'll make that change that you decided on that second option. right,
Typically replenishing sick time that we use for,
for COVID, yeah. Okay,
any other amendments, corrections?
Oh, just my usual non-substantive.
Okay, can I have a motion to approve the May 4th minutes as amended?
I make that motion. This is Rich.
I will second that motion. It's Mike.
All in favor? Margaret says yes. All
Rich, yes.
Mike says yes.
right. Department head updates.
Go ahead.
Brooke.
go ahead, Brooke.
We're just waiting for our guidance. Put together. Well, depending on when we get all set. But we're based this week. You know, on Friday at 11 a.m.
You're reverbing too much, Brooke.
You're freezing, Brooke.
You're freezing up, yeah.
Maybe if you take your picture off, you sound a little better. I've run that in Zoom meetings.
Okay.
Whoa, Mike.
So basically, I'll try again. We are really just still waiting. We're really on hold until we get this guidance. We tried to come up with what we thought would be a good plan for the summer if we are allowed to run, but the fact of the matter is, until we get the guidance, we can't adjust it to what would fit into that guidance and then see if that's actually a possibility for us. Other camps continue to make tough decisions about, canceling or staying open. A lot of cancellations are starting to happen, and I think probably will continue to happen just because we're getting kind of later into the summer. The local area camps that I know of are still planning for a summer camp. So that includes Plymouth, Hampton, Wilderness. I know for a fact.
Look at the volume up
waiting for
here
guidance
versus
to
up
make their
there.
decision. Other
Should be
than
up there.
that, we
I
are
just had a message, it's hard to
getting ready
hear.
for cleanup on Friday at 11 a.m. I read through some of the things that you provided to us. I can't remember, there seem to be a lot of things coming out from the state that say, New Hampshire residents only on some of these things. Was that included in your preliminary thoughts? It wasn't included in what you saw, but that is something that needs to be talked about. I mean, that's, which, based on the guidance for golf courses and other things where they say you have to either be a member or a resident. I think member is something that could be different for the rec department, but in terms of boat rentals, I'm not sure. Right. And then also, anyone coming to the camps or really should be sort of isolated or quarantined for 14 days prior to coming to our camp. So there's a lot of things that there's a lot of complications. It's not all, it's not every little detail is not there because we don't know what they're going to require. Right. And just so everybody knows,
I'll do that. How do you do that, Joe? I'll do that tomorrow.
Same place.
Hold on, Mark. I don't think anyone heard what you just said.
No, go ahead, Margaret.
Okay. The state, I'm going to turn mine. The state task force is going to be considering the subject of day camps and camps in general next Monday. And their normal thing that they do is that they go over the guidance that a whole subcommittee has come up with, and they then vote on it the next day, and then it gets sent to public health. And on Friday, there's opportunity for comments. But once they have put it forth and voted on it, it's available for public health. I don't I do do have a concern about our younger camp members in particular being knowledgeable enough to follow all the rules.
That one of the main concerns.
It's on TV.
May I make a suggestion that we wait till the guidance comes out? I think Brooke, you and your staff have done a wonderful job in what you provided us with materials. And as we digest these materials, maybe we can see what the state has guidelines, and then maybe discuss it.
Under that sound preferences mode, is
Discuss
that?
it, put our thoughts together, and then have a
It's
public
on
meeting on this,
TV.
and come to a decision once we have some more information.
But it's
Right,
coming
we
through
might
there.
have to have a special meeting on it.
Yeah.
Because
Can you
if
unplug
they
it and
come
bring it
out
back
with
in?
something next week, we don't want to have Brooke hanging for another couple of weeks. Let's get things going and underway. Is that right, Brooke?
Yeah, and the other consideration is, we are very fortunate. Right now, we have a full staff ready to go. And we're in a position right now where we have our camps practically full based on this new maximum of 8 kids per 2 instructors, which is, I think, what will come out. Plus, we have a full staff ready to go. Many camps do not have either of those going for them. So we are in a good position. However, I don't know, I can't speak for all the staff members. I don't know how long people are willing to wait, to know if summer's gonna happen or not. So there's a lot of considerations for making a decision, but I just don't feel like today we have enough information to make a decision.
Did you unplug it?
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Unplug it twice.
Yeah, it was interesting today on the call because they talked
How
about
do you turn this
isolators,
on, back on?
whether they could be
The
open.
whole monitor?
No, it's not- that's
So
same
today
thing as
was
on
just
TV.
the first presentation on that,
It
and
doesn't shut the power to the
of course,
monitor
the
though.
business people who
Monitor.
have these
I did.
isolators
I
down
did that.
further at the state are
I
saying,
did.
Oh,
yeah,
you
this is how we can do it. And they have 2 ice floors and 14 locker rooms, and they have many decisions to make, but anyhow, that's the kind of thing that is going on at the task force.
Yeah, and I've also been listening, Margaret, to those and seeing the process. I know with the one that affects boat rentals, it's still a draft. It hasn't gone to
Yeah.
public health yet.
Make
we
it so
still
this
get
is
that.
closer.
How do you
But there's so many factors to consider, and just by looking at the material I provided, there's another question here. Is this our product to such an extent to even deliver it, in terms of boat rentals or camp or whatever? I don't know the answers to that, but that's just another question for consideration if the protocol is really going to be as strict as it appears it might be. So,
Right, particularly in phase 1.
right.
Yeah, because they're talking about having multiple phases, and everybody is basically talking about phase 1 at this point, and the restrictions are
Right.
pretty tough. So,
Yes, they are. And again, with the young campers and the young staff, frankly, there are a lot of questions there. Another option, and we can of course talk about this more at a later date, is to plan on a delayed opening. So instead of canceling, if we felt that was something we may have to do, we could always delay to a certain date in July before we actually had to move to cancel. So anyway, there are a lot of options, but we just need more information.
It's my sense that it's gonna take them a few days after they have this discussion. Is that correct, Margaret? Before the governor makes his decision and announces it?
yes, because the governor will wait to hear what public health has to say. And Friday is sort of his day to announce new things. So, yeah. Okay. All right. How about public safety? Anything, Dave, to report?
Nope, we're status quo and just handling, most of the people are doing pretty good as far as parking. That's a lot of the parking on the road's been alleviated now that the mountain is open back up. Triple I Road should be open possibly this Friday is the rumor. When they decide to open it, but I heard it was probably coming up either Friday or this weekend or early next week. As far as, there was one question online that we took about dogs and, you notice new pet bag stations. Hiking the past few days, they noticed that people are leaving the filled bags on the trails instead of taking the filled bags with them and disposing them in proper receptacles. Could a statement be added to the stations asking people to dispose of the pet waste properly? I believe there's already signage that says that. And just so for everyone that knows, if you're leaving your pet waste behind, that's littering. And if you are littering, that carries about a $300+ fine if you are caught doing so. So we encourage everyone to dispose of whether it's the pet waste in the bags or any other trash to take care of that. If you leave it behind, no one wants to have to go around and pick those up either. So
There were a few days there where out at the Livermore Trailhead, they had a sign on the disposal thing that next to the bathrooms there that they didn't want you throwing your trash away because the
okay, I hadn't seen that, but yeah.
but
So,
it's
well,
not
they
there
are.
anymore.
I know they are encouraging because of lack of staff and taking care of facilities. It is a hike in and hike out. Taking anything that you bring in, you should be taking back out with you.
Right. Okay. Let's see. Anything from Public Works?
Yes, Margaret, I just wanted to highlight that Community Cleanup Day is Friday, but in addition to that, if people want to put brush on the side of the road from where they're cleaning up their yard, anything that blew down maybe during the winter or whatever, doing their spring cleaning around their yard, if they want to pile the brush on the side of the road by their property, we will be picking up brush starting tomorrow. And we'll be doing that tomorrow, Friday, and Monday. Anything that is not out by Monday, that we can't pick up by the close of business on Monday, will be the responsibility of the property owner to take care of that. We are not talking about trees or anything like that, but generally brush between an inch, maybe an inch and a half at the most. The guys will pick up and put in the town trucks and bring it out over here to the brush pile. If anyone has any questions about that, they can call Town Hall at 236-4730. Almost gave my cell phone number out. Other than that, that's all Public Works related right now that I have, unless there are any questions.
Okay. And all the Public Works hires are back on their regular schedule?
Everybody's on their regular schedule. We also did receive, just wanted to let people know that we're continuing, as we're required to do every month, to test our drinking water around town. And we received our latest test results from that monthly test, and everything came back clean, no contamination of any kind, of course. So, but I just wanted to let the board know that we received our most recent test back.
Okay, great. All righty. Calendar review.
Yep, we have our, whoops, that's me. Get that cleared off. The planning board has their meeting tomorrow coming up. So that's also going to be an electronic meeting, and the information, contact information for public to participate in that meeting is on the town website. That'll be a combination Zoom and YouTube meeting similar to this. And then we have the school board meeting May 21st. It's also going to be a Zoom meeting. And the board's next meeting is currently scheduled for May 27th, regular meeting.
And we'll have our regular COVID update next Wednesday at 3 on the 20th.
We will.
Okay, all right. On to new business, reviewing the tax warrant for the first half bill.
Yeah, I distributed that by a separate email. Any questions with that warrant? Just a reminder that bill is based on last year's full tax rate, and we take exactly half of that. And that is how we calculate this first half bill. It is a calculation, or it is an estimation. So the remainder of the tax rate will be sent out in the second bill in November.
Okay, Mark, did we find out whether we can put any informative material in with the tax bill?
We cannot, we've got to do it as a separate mailing, but we're ready to do a separate mailing
Okay,
to get the COVID information out.
right, this was originally, I think, going to be what we put out on the website. But I don't know whether it will be slightly expanded with some of the things from the business and community forum instead. We talked about that, right?
Yes, I think we'll make it a slightly larger newsletter type thing where we take an 11 by 17 page and fold it over so we have 4 regular size sheets to work with. And we'll put the board letter, the last letter that we produced, and then some additional information from the business community, and hopefully some additional information with regards to summer programming. Maybe we'll have more from the governor by the time we send that out. I'd like to target sending that out the last week of May, if that's all right with everybody.
After Memorial Day?
Yes. Because really, I think by the time we produced it and put it in the mail, I don't know that it would actually reach everybody before Memorial Day anyway.
Right.
Especially
Yeah,
camps.
my concern about that is, and I think we heard at least one instance where one of our non-resident property owners, or maybe it's somebody who's simply a snowbird, they don't have access to a computer, or they don't know how to use a computer, and so they have been missing out on some of the email messages that we have. And I'm not sure how to address that, because some of the things we said in that letter the last time are things that people should consider if they are planning to come up here on Memorial Day weekend. So I have a concern about that.
Yeah, I guess we're kind of balancing that with, trying to get we just don't have enough information about what we're going to be allowed to do this summer,
Right.
especially with events and everything. So, I mean, I'll do whatever the board want. We can send it out next week if you want, but what is?
I think that we should wait till we have more information that's useful, especially with things like camps and events. It can hit a broader reach of people that might not have the computer with a bigger message.
Okay,
I agree.
all right, good. That's why I have you guys to help keep me on the straight and narrow here.
Yeah, it's a real balancing act, Margaret.
Yes.
I think it's unfortunate that I don't know, I think you're right. I don't know how to reach those people that don't have that electronic, that copy, hard to get all this information out, especially as fast as it's changing sometimes,
Right, right.
So we'll do the best we can. And in that particular person's interest, I have reached out to them to talk to them. So.
Okay, great. All right, us to do anything with respect to the tax warrant?
Well, yes, I would appreciate an approval, a vote, just so the bills are official, and then you can sign the warrant, whenever you have a chance to come into the office next.
All three of us?
Yes, or at least two of you,
Yeah,
need to sign it at some point, and it's really, as long as you've taken the vote, I'm comfortable as the tax collector sending out the bills.
All right, I will make the motion that we approve the tax warrant for the first half tax bill fiscal year 2020. Can I have a second?
This is Rich. I'll second that.
All those in favor? Margaret says aye.
Rich, aye.
Mike, aye.
Okay, happy collecting, Mark.
Yeah, as a side note to the collection, I sent you information regarding the tax anticipation note from Meredith Village Savings Bank.
Yes.
Again, this is this would be a line of credit which we would set up from whenever we closed and actually signed the paperwork on the note through December 31st of this year. We don't know what collections are gonna be like. It's something that, towns are talking about across the state with regards to collection rates. And I would ask that the board approve the concept of getting the paperwork done for this line of credit. This would only be used if we need it. I'd ask for board approval anytime that we took money on the line of credit. We can take it in any size increments that we want, and there's no prepayment penalty. So if our cash flow is fine in November, we can pay it off. If we don't have to take it throughout the year, we don't have to take it. But it gives us more flexibility so that if our collection rate is less, we can go to this line of credit.
And this is for 50,000?
No, the total line of credit would be for 500,000.
I thought, yeah.
Yeah, be for 500,000, but we can take it in, $25,000, $50,000 increments, whatever we need to, and we only pay interest if we use it.
Okay, and I think we had a discussion before about the fact this might be coming, so this is just about doing the paperwork now?
This
You
is
need a
about
vote
doing
on
the
that?
paperwork. The rate that they gave us was 2.54%.
Okay, do we need a motion on that?
Yes, please. And are there any questions? Did I address all of your concerns?
Any
I'll make a
questions?
motion if you need it, to accept the Meredith Savings Bank tax anticipation note at 2.49%.
This is Rich. I'll second that motion.
All right, all in favor? Margaret, aye?
Rich, aye.
Mike, aye.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Assessing update, Mark?
I'm sorry.
Assessing update?
Yes, you have a veterans tax credit application from Mr. Johansson in your packet. We have verified the information on the application, and it's appropriate from the staff standpoint. So if you're okay with that, then we can move forward with it.
Okay, again, requires a motion?
Yes.
Okay, I move that we extend the veteran tax credit to Mr. Johansson based on his application. Can I have a second?
I'll second. Mike,
All in favor? Margaret, aye.
Rich, aye.
Mike, aye.
And just as a note, that also will need to be initialed by at least two of you when you're in the office. Sharon will have it at her desk.
Okay. Are we going to summer camp programs and activities, or are we gonna delay that until our next meeting?
It's up to you.
Well, Brooke, do you have anything else? I echo Mike's feeling. You put together a very thoughtful document for us here. Do you have anything else that you want to add at this point in time?
Not really. I mean, we are trying our hardest with coming up with new ideas, and some of it gets washed away with new information, and we're just waiting. We're just really waiting. We are, general programs. I mean, I guess I could say that I am going to recommend that we don't have any general programs inside the rec department this summer if we are going to be running camp, just so we can eliminate some of that potential contact. So we are looking at general programs, some of them being offered out on Packard. But right now, I really don't have anything to contribute until we get this guidance. So I think that it would be best to leave it to discuss later. Can't hear you, Margaret.
I didn't want you to hear the dogs too.
No.
We'll study it more carefully and see how some of the things dovetail with what's coming up next Monday.
Yeah.
Yeah, recognizing that next Monday is just a draft. And
Yeah.
the public health may change things in it, so, yeah.
Where is this gonna leave us for Memorial Day weekend? I would anticipate we would not have, or if we do have guidance, it might not be until the Friday before.
I don't think that's next weekend, so I don't think we have any plans for that.
Yeah, there's not gonna be any organized activities. It's
Right,
gonna be
okay.
basically,
I didn't think so.
Okay,
one other thing, we received an email or a phone-in question regarding summer camps, which just to have it on the record so that we can discuss it next time. The question was, there are 3 weeks till school from the end of camp until school starts next fall. And the question was, can camp be extended to end closer to the start of the school year? And we usually end camp when we do because counselors are leaving, they're going back to school themselves, to college or whatever. So I don't foresee that being a possibility.
Actually, Mark, I'm not sure that was either read correctly or said correct. I'm not sure, because usually we end our camps the Friday before school starts on the next Monday. That's usually how we run our camps.
Okay.
So are they talking about it at the beginning of the summer? Like, can we extend it out earlier?
It says there are 3 weeks till school from the end of camp. Can camp be extended?
Maybe it's in Massachusetts. I don't know, because we end our camps, usually there's only 1 week
Yeah,
between.
Right, but whether it was 1 or 3 weeks, I can't see us extending camp even for 1 additional week, given the
No.
trouble that you have with staffing the end of
Right.
camp anyway, right? And,
Yeah.
right now, we don't even know if camp is gonna happen. So
Exactly.
it's really up in the air.
No, I don't think we would be able to do that from a staffing standpoint.
Right. Anyway, I just, because we got that inquiry, I just wanted to make sure that we talked about it.
next item on.
Wait, one more thing, Margaret.
Yeah, there was an inquiry talking about the fishing derby. And I know Brooke, we kind of briefly talked about it, but the state of May have answered it for us, whether we were looking at pushing it to potentially a Father's Day weekend. Well, the state of New Hampshire Fish and Game Department is not approving any derby permits until the state order is lifted. And then even if it is, we're still probably going to be in the initial, those initial phases. And in my opinion, I think, discussing it with Mark and Brooke, we haven't really talked about it, but I don't think, even if it's 50 people, with all the other restrictions and for us to be able to operate that event with those restrictions in place, of whether it would be possible to do that. So we might want to consider just canceling it for this year.
And that's another point that I've been struggling with, is just how do you even control groups in an outdoor setting to stay under a certain number of people? I mean, that's one of the complications of a lot of the events that we would offer throughout the summer that have to consider.
Yeah, just as an example, the guidance that went to the governor from the reopening task force on activities, I put it in your packet. I mean, there are requirements in there to ask the 5 questions and have plexiglass between staff and the customers, and to have no cash exchanged as part of the registration process and all that sort of thing. And that doesn't work for a lot of the events that we would do, you know, because they're drop-in type events. So these sorts of things are going to be pretty difficult. If these restrictions aren't lifted, they're going to be pretty difficult to meet these requirements.
Exactly.
And same thing with things like the 4th of July parade or fireworks.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly. Yeah, and
those
that's especially
things
the
went wayside this year.
especially the 4th, like something like the 4th of July fireworks. Even if we're told that it's going to be an allowed event, if there's even a limit of 200 people at that point, you know, there's no way for our public safety department to control the people who could show up here and keep them in groups of even 200. It's just going to be in the too hard category.
Right.
So something that maybe the board, we don't have to decide it today, but something that we might be wanting to consider is rescheduling the fireworks for another holiday later in the year. Because a lot of towns will be changing those dates. And so maybe we want to be a little proactive and think about something like Labor Day or Columbus Day weekend being our big fireworks day. Maybe we can talk about it with the resort and get their input before you make a final decision, but that may be something we want to think about.
And I have to just add on to that an effect of, you know, hosting these certain events where a lot of towns around us have canceled them is going to create more people coming here. So we have to, in some ways, we kind of have to align with, you know, our state and our region because we don't want to have that effect happening in so many of our events and activities.
I mean, what's the initial thoughts of the board? What are you, is that something you want us to explore with
I
like
think we
the
need
fireworks?
more guide. I think we're operating in this just area where we don't really have an oar in the water yet.
Yeah,
As
and
to
I'm not at all sure about picking a date later in the year because some people think there may be a resurgence later in the year. So, you know, we're operating in the dark in this right now. We may very well have to just say 2020 is the year without 4th of July fireworks. No.
Yeah, I'm leaning in that direction actually, but we don't have to make the decision now. So.
No, I'm not asking for the decision. I guess I'm just asking for, go ahead.
I was gonna say, you were just looking for a sense of where we were thinking.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking like, I mean, we can start talking to Atlas and asking them if there are dates later in the year that aren't booked, you know, to perhaps give us some options. As far as guidance, so I don't think we're going to have much more information than we have right now, unless there's just some huge change in the way that they've been doing this. I mean, I don't think they're going to give us, they're not going to give us any information.
I think, and I would hope, we would get a flurry of really good information within the next 10 days or so, because our economy in New Hampshire is built on tourism. And I think the state realizes we have to send a message out to our people who live here and people who would come here as to what's going to happen for the summer. I think there's got to be an urgency on their part on this.
Right, I was, until the vote on the draft until the recommendation from the reopening task force to the governor yesterday on the activities, what I put in your packet, I thought that exact same thing, Mike. But if you look at that document,
I read it this afternoon.
there's nothing in there. And there's nothing we can use, right?
Well, hopefully we'll have strong leadership, and the strong leadership will use the state of emergency and go, this is how we're gonna do it. A, B, C, D, but it's just some way we'll have some direction.
Yeah, I'm just worried that it's not gonna happen.
Yeah. No,
So is there a date that we want to decide about July 4th activities? Or do we just want to leave it open-ended?
I think I did hear that they were going to do some discussion on this next week. I don't know that it was, a subject that was one of the subcommittees, but somebody was supposed to talk about it next week. I just don't remember which day.
Well, yeah, I mean, the other thing is we don't get the agenda for the reopening committee until an hour before they start their meeting. So we don't even know what they're gonna talk about, quite frankly, until they start talking about it.
Right.
And they haven't been even following their own agendas. They've been bringing up stuff that's not on the agenda, and they've been dropping stuff that is on the agenda. So you basically have to go on at 1:30 every day and find out what they're gonna talk about that day.
Right. And I have been doing that as part of what I said that I would do. I was listening to a call to the end of the meeting just before our meeting today, and they were having a discussion about the fact that these guidelines are out there, but some of the local health officials are overruling them, saying that they want something stricter than what's in the guidelines. And
Well-
so they were trying to have a discussion about, well, who do we listen to if they're stricter at the local level? So
Well,
it's
and
interesting.
the town, well, I guess that's the same approach any town can take on any state law. You can be more restrictive, you just can't be less restrictive.
Salem was looking at outdoor face masks, as I recall.
Yeah,
They decided not to have a vote on that.
No, we're in just this gray area where it's unfortunate I feel we just don't have enough information to make a decision, because I don't want to cut off any opportunities we might have.
Right. And of course, we always want anybody who is here in the valley to be safe as well.
Right.
So we're walking the line just like everybody else is.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Our first responders got some extra pay from the feds, is that right?
from the state out of the federal money, yes.
From the state out of the federal money. So there was a nice list of them in there, and thank you very much to our first responders. We appreciate you all the time, not just when the state pays you.
Well, thank you.
And there is one other individual we're gonna add to that. It's another part-timer, but you're not really voting by individual as much as just accepting,
To accept the money.
to accept
from
the money
state.
that the state does send.
Okay.
Yeah.
I move that we accept the money that the state of New Hampshire has sent to support our first responders with a stipend. Can I have a second?
I will second, Mike.
Okay, all those in favor, Margaret, aye.
Rich, aye.
Mike, aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
The sign ordinance,
Oh, we skipped over that, didn't we?
yes, we did.
Okay, so Mark, if fill us in, but basically my understanding is that the resort would like to place some signs before Memorial Day weekend, starting at about the power station, okay, just below Triple I Road. And I think the initial ones are just going to be 4 or 5 of them, almost like the old Burma shade signs, leading up to Triple I Road and slightly beyond. Do I have that right, Mark?
That's correct, till about the welcome, the new big welcome sign.
Right. So, and basically telling people, yes, there are going to be places where you need to wear a mask. Yes, we want you to wash your hands, and yes, we want you to maintain 6 feet of distance.
Yes.
And there'll be another set that the resort will be putting up in Town Square. Some of the businesses in Town Square, they are talking to one another, but they have their own approaches in terms of how they're going to deal with visitors coming in, and that will be posted at their business. But if there are general practices we want followed in Town Square, those are going to be at the entrances to Town Square. And the third set that would go up would be at the parking lots. If somebody goes to the parking lot at Livermore Trail, they would see a sign there that said, if this lot is full, go over to the Snows Mountain parking lot. And if they go to the Snows Mountain parking lot and it's full, there'll be some go to the Town Square parking lot, park your car. But that's the extent of what they're talking about for the Memorial Day weekend. Normally these kind of signs would not be permitted, but we are looking for, I think, the selectmen agree to, I don't know, is it a modification of the rules?
It
for
would
this
be-
particular purpose?
You'd be suspending the sign regulations that are part of the zoning ordinance.
For this particular purpose, for this COVID-19 purpose only.
Correct.
And I also, following up on Mike's recommendation earlier, I would say that the selectmen and public safety and the town manager should see the signs, see the design, and say, okay, right?
Just public safety, just so it's a unifying agreement on the signs,
Right, right.
so we can stand behind it.
Yeah, it's not, you know, they're having to fill out an application for each particular sign. It's just, let's make sure that we see them before they go up.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Mark, are we basically looking at changing the duration of a temporary sign, like instead of 14 days, just giving it a new period? Like,
Yeah, it would
Summer.
really, that's right, Rich, and I think that's really the only change, and the temporary signs, they'd be up a little bit longer, but they're pretty high quality signs that the resort is talking about putting up. They're metal signs. They're made to be up basically for the entire season, summer. The other thing would be that it's not business dependent. So this is like really the town putting them in the town right of way is basically what we're looking at. So it's not a business related
a
thing.
private
So
sign on public property.
exactly. So
Well, it's really a public sign as well, because it's information for
Yeah.
public health.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, right.
So this is really just a simple suspension or a change
In the time.
temporary signage.
Yeah.
Everything else would still obtain.
Yeah, and it's gonna be a larger, I mean, there will be quite a few more signs than we normally would put up for a single event.
Right.
I hesitate only because I don't know exactly how many, but we're looking at, 6 or 7 signs from the electrical substation up to the town entrance sign along the side of the road. And then more from Noon Peak Road around to Village Road that have to do directly with public safety, speed limit, watch out for bicyclists, watch out for pedestrians, that sort of thing. So there may be 6 or 7 signs there. There's gonna be signage around town square and around the parking lots. So it'll be more along the lines of the sign package that we had up for the REI camp thing.
We need state
The
approval
main,
for.
the main difference.
Well, yeah, you
One that's state.
the
I'm
main
sorry?
difference being that, they're gonna be up for some period of time.
Right,
Certainly the people that live here all the time are going to get sign fatigue. But we wanted to make sure that people were aware that this was going to happen and that we felt it was necessary because we are going to have some people entering that may need to be reminded of the fact that we are a beautiful place and yes, we have a very low number of cases here, but we did that because we followed these rules. So that's what the main purpose of those signs are. And like I say, we wanted people to know they're going to be up for a while. They may be up throughout the summer. They may be up until Columbus Day to remind people of what we want them to do when they're here in the valley.
Yeah, I think the biggest concern may be the number of signs, especially on the roads and some of the more scenic areas, as opposed to signs on private property like in town square or even in parking lots.
Yeah.
We can always adjust it later based on feedback.
yeah, and there, it comes down, there's a lot of material, but without cluttering the signs or making them too large. We have to simplify the message, but there's a lot of different messages to send out. So, I mean,
It's not going to be one of those south of the border type situations, right? Guys, remember those signs on 95?
yeah, no, it won't be quite as obtrusive because it's not gonna be 12 feet by 18 feet or
Right,
anything.
every
So,
mile for.
every mile for 500 miles, yeah,
But
no.
I do think we're going to be seeing a lot of Bruce the Moose.
There will be a
Yes.
lot of Bruce the Moose and it will be messages, they're gonna be pretty simple messages. And like Margaret said, folks that are gonna be looking at these signs for several weeks, they'll get sign fatigue, but we have to keep in mind that this is for the person that may be coming here for a single weekend or for a week and has never been to the valley before. So, because it's gonna be up all summer, we're talking to a larger audience than just who's here.
How about the maintenance cost?
Well, the cost is the other part of this. They're looking at anywhere from 4,000 or 5,000 to 6,000 or 7,000. I don't know what it's gonna exactly cost, but
That's for the manufacturer and.
that's manufacturing. Yep, that's design, manufacturing, everything,
And maintenance.
and the
Put
maintenance.
some money in there for maintenance.
That was
Yeah.
including maintenance?
Yes. So, the resort has asked that it be a cost share, that there is a public safety aspect to this and a public health aspect to this, and that they're asking the town to participate in the cost. I certainly see it's something, we would have to figure out a way to communicate some of this same information to people if we are reopening, so I do see some benefit for us. So
Is it just the resort and the town? that
yeah, it
was
would be a,
getting-
it would be a 50-50 split.
And, initially it's not gonna be the 5,000 or 7,000, but it may be later on if we add more signs, etc. But they are, as Mark says, they are all things that we as a town would have had to deal with. The advantage of doing it this way is that we have a consistent message across the community using, the same designs, the same colors, and getting people used to Bruce the Moose and all of that kind of.
What about other establishments in town?
Well, Wendy, for instance, has put together her list of things that she's going to require of customers. Jugtown has said that they are going to continue doing what they're doing right now through Memorial Day weekend. Wendy is going to let people into her store, but it's going to be under some fairly rigorous circumstances for both her staff and for people entering the store. There's going to be a limit of 4 people in the store at one time, those kinds of things. And I think Sean was on the phone and he has decided not to try and do outside seating now. He thinks maybe at the point in time where the pool is open that he may be doing some serving out of the cabana at that time, but right now he says it doesn't make economic sense for him to have outside seating. I think the Mexican restaurant is going to do some outside seating in Town Square.
Yeah, I was wondering if there's going to be some sort of Town Square turn into a COVID requirement outdoors restaurant seating area as opposed to a walkway or people walking all around. Well, the restaurants, everything kind of move out into the town square.
I discussed that with Chris Rich, and he said that he didn't really see if they're using the existing tables that are in Town Square, there's really no issue with that. It's more of curbside pickup and then go, if there's an available table, you can sit down and eat outside. There's not going to be
But let me ask you the question, because I see this from my office. I see multiple families using these tables before they're cleaned. Yeah, they're sitting down and it's groups of families getting together to see each other. The kids are playing, the adults are having, sandwiches and things like that. Do we need to pay attention to having these tables cleaned or, some kind of instruction to people and some wipes left around to clean this after you leave?
Well, that's going to be a business, that's going to be a business item that we can mention to the resort and talk to them about that. I don't know from a public safety standpoint, maybe if we happen to be patrolling through at the time, or how do you?
Well, it's each business, depending on what business they're in, has to follow the guidelines.
Right.
And as part of the guidelines, they have to have a cleaning and disinfecting plan going forward in order to be able to do that. If that's available, whoever is going to be providing, I know the tables that are there now belong to Town Square. If they're being allowed to be used within that whatever phase that we're in, they should be following.
Town Square should be following.
They should be following the guidelines and have a disinfecting plan. Right now, I believe it's like every 2 hours for any contact services that the public comes into that they might be using. So that may
And I
change.
know they haven't put out a lot of chairs in Town Square.
Right.
Yeah.
There's just like 2 or 3 tables total, and that's right, Mike?
Yeah.
The
I think it's pretty fine the way it is now, but I'm concerned as long as Jugtown, I think, is just doing a spectacular job doing what they're doing and staying with what they're doing, because that would be the only place people would really congregate where you wouldn't have as much control over it as you would hope to. But yeah, I think the minimum tables that are there now are fine the way they are. But my concern would be is if people are start serving food to go and people are looking for places to hang out in Town Square on a nice sunny day, it changes it up a little bit.
Yeah. What are we doing with the beach, Mark?
we are not putting anything out initially.
Right.
I mean, we can even take
Are we
the,
gonna let people sit on the beach?
well, inland beaches are treated differently than the coast. So people, as long as they properly socially distance and they do not congregate in groups larger than 10, people are allowed to be wherever they are. And that's not limited under the current guidelines. That's not limited to a single family unit. You can meet people and have a group of 10 or less. So our thing would be, maybe we need to have signs made up that say, please properly socially distance and don't congregate in groups larger than 10. But other than that, I don't think we can limit anything on the beach.
Okay,
Well, I think if I could interject, I think the issue with that is the same as for tennis courts or pickleball courts or wherever. As long as people are using it correctly, then it's fine. However, how do you police it to make sure it's being used fine? Do you just wait for it to be reported, or what is the system for?
I think we simply wait for it to be reported. We can't commit to having staff there, at any hour that it might be used. I think we respond if there is a report of some kind of violation of the guidelines.
Okay, now what about for the playground? Because right now we do have signs posted at the playground saying that it's closed, which I think it should be.
I think the playground, specifically the playgrounds, are closed until we get into phase 2 or 3.
Yeah.
So in phase 1, the playground is closed.
With regard to the beach, I don't recall reading, unlike an ocean beach, it's a rather small area. The number of people in a particular area, that requirement does not obtain to our small beach.
Well, as long as a group of 10 can be there and they are separated by 6 feet or more from another group of 10, the way I read the regulation, that's okay. So, I mean, it's going to be, I don't know how I guess aggressive, how much do you want us to push this? Because towns all over the state are taking totally different approaches from each other. So I'm looking for guidance on, how does Dave structure patrols, and what do officers say when they see things? How stringent do you want us to be with this?
I think it's.
go ahead.
I think it's an evolving process now, where as we get busier, we'll see how well things are observed and how people are paying attention to what the guidelines are. And I think it would be up to public safety to come up with these things, not the selectmen to come up with it. Because the idea of keeping us safe is, I'm not an expert on keeping us safe. I throw my whole thought between you guys doing it, not to push it off on you. But I think as things go on, I would just accede to your judgments.
Well, and I guess that's the line that's what I'm asking, Mike, is though, if from a purely public safety standpoint, we can interpret these very closely.
No, I get what you're saying, Mark. But what I'm saying is, I'm not qualified to make that call. I think Dave and Chris and Jeff are the guys who should be making those calls based on what they're seeing as far as what's making them comfortable with what's going on in town. My perception of what's comfortable is not geared as well as theirs would as far as public safety.
Well, I'm not asking for your personal opinion. I'm asking for the town's policy of, do you want us to hold to the guidelines? Because we certainly will, I mean, we'll do that if that's, but what's the atmosphere that you guys want here? Is it to make sure that people are safe, but take as liberal a view of it as we can? Or is it to follow the guidelines very strictly and maybe not come across as welcoming as a community as we could? I mean, that's what
I get you. My thought would be to take the guidelines as liberally as possible, as long as people are safe. And if that changes, we change how we
okay,
the word isn't react, but respond would be the word.
yeah, I
That's just
mean,
my thought.
Rich, Margaret, is that okay with
Yeah.
you?
But I think, particularly at the beach, we probably ought to have at least one sign there that says,
Oh, without a doubt.
yeah, no more than 10 and keep your social distance.
Okay,
That could be part of the
And
package.
because then, if in fact things should get out of hand on the beach, the public safety department has something behind them to go and say, hey,
Yeah.
guys, come on.
Mhm.
yeah,
And they do such a good job of this.
yeah,
I mean, our police and people are really, really respected in town by both our visitors and,
Mhm.
the people that live here, because they know how to handle these situations in a way that's resort friendly.
yeah,
So that's the way I look at it. We make sure that people are alert to what the rules are, and if somebody starts to do something that we think is going to impact the safety and health of anyone in town, then we call them on it and
Okay.
say, hey, you gotta behave differently.
is that clear?
Yeah,
Yeah,
go ahead, Mike.
I would just think the signage that we're gonna co-sponsor and co-pay for would include places like the beach and public areas.
Yes,
So the whole branding, the whole message is uniform throughout the town.
Right.
yes, we will add that to the sign package. That's a good addition.
And I generally agree with the proposition as you stated it, Margaret and Mike. I'm a little bit concerned about the beach. It strikes me more as one of these open air event type places and have a lot of kids. I see that very difficult situation where it'd be almost impossible to really enforce even nicely the standards.
Well, and
You can have kids in the water, you can have kids running around.
you're gonna find the same thing on Packard's Field, and we're gonna have problems with the playground. We're gonna have problems
Yep.
around the school. So I think it's gonna be any open area, you're gonna have that same issue.
My guess and hope would be that in the next round of announcements, there'd be more guidance specifically to these town beaches. Because that's what New Hampshire is, lots of little town beaches. So I would think there's gonna be something paying more attention to it than what we're seeing now.
Well, they surprisingly, Mike, in the state parks guidance, which addressed state beaches, they basically have said, they're open and socially distanced and no groups larger than 10. So they're not limiting, at least on the state level, the inland beaches. They are just allowing to basically follow very general guidelines. They're not gonna get specific on this.
Doesn't this open us up to some real legal insurance issues?
Well,
Also, the
Who
swimming,
knows?
is there gonna be swimming allowed?
Yeah,
I think a decision has to be made about that just because of the size of our pond.
oh, if only I knew.
The guidance that I've heard proposed has allowed what they call moving activities. Now, that's basically for the coastline beaches. But
Right.
they're saying on the coastline, you can surf, you can swim, you can walk. I just don't want you sitting down
right.
or congregating. So as Mark said, the inland beaches are different. But I don't know of anything that would, prevent people from swimming. We're not going to put the raft out, so they're not encouraged to go to the raft.
Yeah, we're not gonna have chairs out. We're not gonna have any volleyball net or anything, at least not initially.
Does it make sense to run by our insurer?
I've asked,
Okay.
and they said basically no comment. No, I wish I were
More
kidding,
useful
but
guidance.
there's no guidance from them. They don't know. Because they've never dealt with this, so they don't know what the coverages are. They can't give us any real recommendations.
You
Other
could
than-
make the argument that because of insurance concerns and health concerns, we're just not going to open it. I'm not making that argument. I'm just saying that's at one end of the spectrum.
Right, except the beach is integral to the trail system. It's, it's it's right beside how people get from the Golden Eagle down to Town Square. I don't see any viable way of keeping people off of it. Even if we said we wanted to close the beach, I guess we could put up a sign that said beach closed. And anytime a public safety officer was there, he could chase whoever's on the beach off of the beach. But the insurance company issue is most of our liability insurance coverages and everything else are based on events. So this is not an identifiable event. And so the insurance company at this point is taking, if you're doing what the state has put out for guidance, then you're following the rules. And you're taking the proper public stance on it. So we're acting in good faith, so we're covered from a liability standpoint.
Well, I guess the point I was making, I won't belabor it any longer. I'm not taking this position. I'm just raising for discussion. In order to follow the state orders, don't you need to have on-site folks monitoring in a place, especially like the beach, where you have kids and families? Otherwise, don't we open ourselves up to not following the state's guidelines or orders or emergency order, executive order, all those things? I don't know the answer to the question.
I don't either, but I think the first step is inform them of the rules in
Yes.
where they're going. And then, our police officers take a rotation through Town Square on a regular basis. They can't take an eye out to the beach and make sure that people are following the rules over there. And people do react from seeing a badge.
No, and Margaret, I'm comfortable with handling it that way, and as long as doesn't become a problem. If it's never a problem and we can keep up on it, we can educate the people. There is signage, and we do have that support where if we have to talk to folks, we're certainly comfortable in doing that.
Right. And if it becomes too difficult, then we close the beach.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think we ought to start out with social distancing and no more than 10 in a group.
Sounds like a plan.
I just sent to your cell phones examples of the signs.
Oh,
Initial, I just got them.
I didn't see them yet.
No. Joe gets it first.
Hear lots of dinging.
I'm pretty popular, I kind of get it up. Don't you love technology? Look at all this, what we're doing.
Yeah, as long as public safety is fine with us, I don't have a problem.
Yeah, these are all the pretty standard messages that are out there.
Yep, I like those.
Sure.
They didn't use, one of my suggestions was that they, for the social distancing, they should have a picture of Bruce that said, "Give me 6." They didn't pick up on that. All right. Let's see, any more business surrounding that? Mark, you need any more?
No, so, yes, we'll get back to you with exact numbers and everything. Is that all right?
Okay. Correspondence, we had a couple of emails from Ray Kaczarski.
Yes, one of them was in regards to the fishing derby, so we've kind of taken care of that one. The other one was his comments on opening venues, and really we can't talk about those until we know exactly what that means.
Yeah, I mean, just to reassure Ray, basically all of our town programs are on hold until we get more guidance from the state. That's a fair statement, yes?
Yes.
Whether it be 4th of July fireworks or anything that the rec department is or that kind of thing. I understand his concern about people coming in from areas that have a larger incidence of COVID-19 than we have here in the valley. But I guess the bottom line is there is nothing that we can personally do to prevent people from coming into town. So our tact has been, how can we educate the people coming into town as to what the right things to do are while they're here? And we are trying our best to make that happen. We have been.
Well, and I think the signs are a step towards that too.
And I just wanted to also point out, and I guess we're under correspondence here, that I had received a couple of emails very late this afternoon, just before the meeting. The state Homeland Security and Emergency Management offices are going to hold a teleconference for all town officials to discuss funding opportunities for towns and cities through FEMA and other emergency-related sources of funds. So we'll be doing that tomorrow afternoon. And also NHMA is going to be making a presentation to the reopening task force at 1:30 tomorrow afternoon.
What are those letters
so-
said for, please, Mike?
I'm sorry,
You said eights,
NHMA, the Municipal Association.
okay, just so everyone at home, and
Yep.
I don't remember what it is.
So they will be presenting a list of concerns that towns have. So hopefully we can start to get things like you're talking about, Mike, with some more realistic and detailed guidelines that we can follow rather than what we're getting right now, which isn't much. So,
Mark, we still need to have some kind of meeting to talk about lost revenue for the year and what we're going to do to try and balance our budget.
yeah, and the only thing we've been holding off on has been, trying to wait until we can see what's happening with summer camps because there's such a big piece of that discussion.
Right, right. Okay. Anything else? We need to go into,
Non-public? Oh,
I
no,
have one thing, oh, go ahead.
yeah, one public, thing with the ice arena, the request for the capital improvements, with the balance of the money.
Right,
So we have $16,892 remaining in the account. They presented us with bills for capital improvements that have been made, totaling a little more than 17,000. So I had proposed to you in the packet that we approve dispersing the the balance of the capital reserve account to pay for those improvements.
I don't have any problem with that. You need a motion, Mark?
Yes, please.
I will make a motion to send the balance of the capital account for the ice arena to the ice arena folk, to cover their, identified capital expenses. And I have a second.
this is Rich, I will second that motion.
All those in favor, Margaret, aye?
Rich, I.
Mike, aye.
Anything else I've forgotten, Mark?
Yes.
Yes?
That's, no, I'm sorry, nothing else.
I
We're all
have one
set.
thing, Margaret.
Go for it, Rich.
I was thinking about the post office situation that developed. I think, I don't know how did it work out this Monday?
Since the sign has gone up, it's been pretty good.
Okay.
The only issue has been, trying, and the post office staff is trying to get people to get their mail and leave as quickly as possible. So they're working on that.
Have we thought of making that or requesting, I suppose, that corridor, so to speak, going from Town Square to the post office be a one-way, and then people go down the stairs to leave the post office?
It's private property.
Well,
Right.
we can request it if that's what you want to do, but I think we have ADA concerns with that because
I see.
the people would be using,
It's not accessible.
it's not accessible.
Right, to go out, right. I was
Right.
thinking in terms of just distancing, because when you
Yeah,
have people standing there and people walking, there's no way you can stay 6 feet,
there isn't.
6 feet apart.
Nope.
ADA answers the thought I had.
Well, actually, the few times I've been there when there's been people waiting, we have stood 6 feet apart. The
No.
only issue is when someone's passing you to leave.
Right,
Yeah,
that's
what
the
I was
issue.
wondering.
But again, you're outdoors, so if people are wearing their masks, that's definitely a area in town that we would want people to wear masks and try to stay as far apart as possible.
Very good. That's it. Thank you.
All right. Can I have a motion to go into non-public?
I move that we go into non-public. This is Rich.
That was just,
I have
I
a second.
second. Okay.
it's been going on.
Seconds.
Yeah. we
All
got it
those in
last night.
favor, Margaret, aye?
Rich, I.
See you later.
See ya.
Mike, aye.
Okay, into non-public.
All right.